Thanks for joining me for our monthly Breaking the Cycle of Pain live. I am so excited tonight as we have a special guest coming our way. Lorri Simon is coming to us as a physical therapist and founder of Back to Life Physical Therapy and Coaching Services. She has over 25 years of experience as a physical therapist treating chronic pain, spine, and pelvic health. Lorri and I will be talking tonight all about chronic pain. I want to welcome Lorri to our live.
Thank you so much, Amy. I am very excited to be here with you tonight.
Wonderful. Before Lorri and I get started, I like to always just give us a reminder that the information that we are going through tonight is meant for informational purposes only. This is not to help us diagnose or to replace anything that you would do with your doctors or medical staff. So we have extensive experience treating chronic pain. So the information that we're giving is just from years of experience that we have. So as we get going, the flow for tonight is Lorri and I are just going to have a general question, and we're going to have discussions about different topics related to chronic pain. We encourage, as always, for you to add your comments right into the comments, whether it is on the topic that we are talking about, whether it is general questions, whatever questions you have, we want to be here to answer them. So go ahead and add them in the comments. Lorri, are you ready to go ahead and get on started?
I sure am.
Perfect. So I hear all the time my clients talking about how pain is bad. What would you say about this? Do you feel that pain is really bad?
Well, I just experienced pain yesterday, so it felt bad at the time, but let me tell you that in general, pain is not bad because it's our body's system of protection. So it's our body telling us that we need to do something, change something, make some adjustment to get the stress off whatever's creating that pain.
Absolutely. And you know, how I a lot of times describe it to my clients is our bodies are always giving us signals. And these signals could be pain, it could be a tightness, whatever it may be, but it's a way for our body to start asking us to listen to it. Unfortunately, most of us miss these signals because they may come and go. They may not be something that lingers on. Unfortunately, most of us start to kind of listen to that pain when it's kind of screaming at us. And would you agree that this is kind of when it's starting to become a chronic situation? What do you feel about that?
Absolutely. The chronic pain comes when our bodies lose those signals that you're describing. We're bombarded with information all day long. Our nervous system is taking in all these signals from the news to everything that's going on around us, and all of our senses are taking in signals all day long. The problem comes when we stop listening to those signals and they become normal instead of the warning system that they're supposed to be. That's when those repetitive stresses, what I call shearing forces on joints, tissues, that starts creating the pain that triggers those chronic pain cycles, and our bodies just stop listening.
Absolutely. You know, and when we're talking about signals that the body's giving us, these things that come in almost as little sensations that we have, I kind of call them whispers. And the problem is sometimes they are so minimal or they last for a second that we are completely unaware of it. And we tend to have learned to kind of, that's what you said, ignore those little signals. Unfortunately, when they start to become more and stronger, that's when we start to really listen to them. And it's kind of like the body is then, it's at its tipping point. It can't withstand that stress anymore. And so the body's only way to tell us that something's going on is it starts screaming at us. I just had this conversation with someone today. We really want to start listening and hearing these whispers rather than waiting for the body to scream. Because I would guess that you would agree that when the body's screaming at us like this, it takes longer for it to feel better compared to if we start to address these things when we're having more of these whispers or these lighter signals. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Our I like to think of the nervous system as a dial on the radio,
Hmm.
turning the
Yep.
volume up. And once it's been turned up, it takes a lot more to turn it down. So
Yeah.
those thresholds continue to increase. And that's why the whispers are so hard to recognize.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Over the years, why do you find it's hard for us to support our bodies or the painful tissue in the body?
Gravity is a booger. It is
It
a
is.
really, it is a force that is, it's always beating down on our bodies,
Hmm.
and it's hard to resist gravity. And the more we have become a sedentary population, the more we're on our phones and all bent over and hunched. Our positions and postures make it even harder to fight gravity because of the
Yeah.
things that we do these days. So that's when those tissues are under stress for repetitive times, they become inflamed, the whispers are overshadowed, and that dial starts turning up. And before you know it, the chronic pain is back.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there one thing that you kind of help your clients start to understand and help them become more aware of their bodies?
The biggest tip for me is understanding balance in the system, and how their posture is the foundation that really builds on the ability to resist gravity. So if you set yourself up for success by understanding, then it makes it easier to fight gravity. But if
Yeah.
you're sitting on the edge of your chair, really into your computer, leaning forward, those forces are going to get the best of you rather than relaxing into your posture and letting the support system work for itself.
Are you watching me right now? Can you tell I'm leaning into my computer? Because
Your
I
posture
am.
is fabulous, my dear. You get an A plus. You are not leaning into your computer.
I am, but you can't tell. I'm perching on the edge of my chair. And one of the things that I find absolutely posture is critical with our clients. But one thing that I find helps my clients become more aware is teaching different breathing techniques. I always find that with majority of individuals that do have chronic pain, that there is dysfunction in their breathing and what's happening at their diaphragm. Do you want to comment on this at all?
Absolutely. Diaphragmatic breathing is my go to for every patient as their first home exercise because
Mhm.
of its effect on the
Yeah.
nervous system. It totally assists in turning the volume down
Mhm.
because of the massage, so to speak, that it gives the sympathetic chain that runs right down your rib cage and along that thoracic spine. When we breathe and those ribs move, it is a physiological turn down on your pain symptoms, which is a wonderful exercise for modulating pain.
Absolutely. And it really takes us from that anxious, stressful, sympathetic state where our heart rate, our respiratory rate, all of that is spiked. And it helps us to really get into more of that calm, that peace, and really start to elicit that parasympathetic state. It brings us out of that fight or flight and brings us to more peace. I love diaphragmatic breathing. I really feel that a lot of individuals, because of the pain, have really developed dysfunctional breathing patterns. So I agree, it is one of the first places to start with individuals. When you start talking to people struggling with chronic pain, what advice do you find most helpful for them?
Well, the interesting thing is everybody's got a different story, and the pain is so multifactorial. There's so many different parts of our lives that lead us to the injuries and the chronic pain that we've had. So the bottom line for me, as I said earlier, is really balance, figuring
Mhm.
out balance in your system, balance in your body, recognizing those whispers, as you put it, before they become the screams, learning to find balance not just in structure, but in all the areas of our life, so that we can understand and connect the dots, so to speak, in why our pain is continues to come back and continues to be such a problem. It helps make the solutions more apparent for
Yeah.
control of the pain.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And, I know everyone is different, and I know we kind of touched base on this as posture is one of the critical starting points. Is there some other aspect that you also feel is important to bring in with our chronic pain clients besides the diaphragmatic breathing? Is there anything else that you find as a common denominator with these individuals?
Really, it's understanding first the mechanics. As a physical therapist, I'm very mechanical in my approach.
Mm-hmm.
I see the joint, be the joint, the tissues around it. It's all very visual in my head. So the more I'm able to explain that to my patients, the more they understand the structure and the ability to decrease the stress and strain that occurs in our bodies when we're in those chronic postures. Those help us offload when we understand and can see where the problem's starting from.
Yeah, and I think education is so key for our clients, because the more information and insight that they have into understanding their bodies, the more knowledge they have and the more power they have. And so I believe in fully in education. I think both of us are very blessed that we don't work in necessarily a traditional setting anymore, so that we are able to take that time that we need to be able to incorporate some of these things and to educate our clients. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. It's one of the reasons I left the clinical setting, to be
Yeah.
able to spend the time to address some of the other areas in management of chronic pain that aren't typically covered in a busy orthopedic clinic, because we're so focused on structure and getting that pain under control. They walk out the door, they feel great, but 2 months, 3 months, 6 months later, they come back with the exact same problem.
Yeah.
After 25 years, that started driving me crazy. We
Yeah.
had to get to the root of those problems.
Yeah, and I think I got frustrated I was about 7 or 8 years in. And that's when I started to look outside the box. And same thing, I was seeing my clients come back they'd get better. We did a really great job. And then within 3 to 6 months, they'd be back with similar or the same symptoms. And it was really frustrating. And that's when I found the myofascial work and started to really address a different aspect of the body. So kind of talking about those common areas that get out of balance, what are the most common areas that you find with your clients that we need to work on balancing?
Yeah. So again, being the mechanical physical therapist mind, structure is the first thing.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned the fascial system, which is the web of tissue that holds us all together. Our soft tissues, our muscles, our ligament structures, our joints, all of those structures can be pain generators, which is part of why it's a multifactorial problem. Then we've got control issues, neuromuscular, the core versus the larger power muscles playing tug of war with the spine. Sleep can be a problem. There can be issues with positioning, or it could be sleep hygiene, way too much light or noise or blue screen time, too much noise in our heads from the busy day that we can't shut down. And our bodies aren't getting that resting and relaxation time that resets. It can be nutrition, what we're feeding our system that contributes to those inflammatory responses that keeps that dial turned up a little higher. And then stress is kind of the overarching umbrella that covers all of that. how stress affects our bodies in so many different ways. It clogs up our tissues, sticks those fascial layers together to where the muscles can't slide and glide and move and
Yep.
get things going the way they should. And when those tissues get stuck and all those layers are a big clump, then the next thing you know, you got one ear in your shoulder because shoulder and ear are stuck together because everything is thick and non-pliable. You lose your circulation. All of those are effects of stress, posture, body control. It's a cascade of events, and it really doesn't start with just one thing. It's little tiny things building on top until the explosion of pain that finally gets your attention, and then you finally try to do something about it, but then you go right back to those bad habits and the cycle continues.
Yeah. And I think you would agree with me that when a lot of these areas come out of balance, it's important to take a multidisciplinary approach and address a lot of them. It isn't usually just one thing that is the issue. With our chronic pain clients, they have multiple layers that need to be peeled away, basically. So I'm guessing that when you're working with clients, you're bringing a lot of these pieces in with them. Am I correct?
Absolutely. I call it peeling the onion layers away,
Yep.
because literally you have to get from one level to the next to the next. And, we are such poor historians to begin with. We don't even remember that back in third grade when Jimmy tripped me and I landed on my chin in the gym floor, and, but now I have chronic headaches 40 years later.
Yeah.
There is a cause and effect there. So as we peel the onion layers away in our treatments and our time with our patients, we start reminding the body of some of those things, and it comes clear in the mind as well. And I can't tell you how many times a client has been, oh yeah, this happened, and I bet this is associated. And I'm like, yeah, it probably is. And there are areas that we hide in our subconscious that we don't even realize are still contributing to areas that we hold and guard and protect. So it is an extremely challenging process, which is why pain is a multi-billion-dollar industry. If it were simple, we'd sprinkle our pixie dust and move on. But unfortunately, our pixie dust doesn't work the same on everyone.
Absolutely. I wish we had that magic wand. You see all these people that are struggling with chronic pain day in and day out, and it's debilitating for many. And it really impacts their ability to live their life. And I wish I had that magic wand, but unfortunately, the body is a very complex system. And as we know, we have to peel away those layers. I'm going to take a moment just to let people know we are talking with Lorri Simon, who is a physical therapist. And if you have any questions regarding the topic of chronic pain or anything else in regards to painful conditions, go ahead and put them in the comments, and we will be happy to answer them tonight. Now, Lorri, I know that as a physical therapist, just as me as an athletic trainer, we both have seen a wide range of clients over the years. What do you feel is kind of that most common area that you have treated as a physical therapist?
Definitely the spine in general, but most specifically the low back and pelvis, just because it is the cornerstone basically for all movement. So low back pain is definitely where most of the patients I've seen, and I did sort of create my own niche in the pain, in the spine realm, and gaining insight into pelvic health really expanded my ability. The interaction between the pelvis and the spine is remarkable, just like the shoulder is to the neck. So they interact, they work together, but definitely the low back has been the number one diagnosis I've seen. Lumbago.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I would wholeheartedly agree with you. Back pain is one of the most common things that we address in our clinic as well. And I don't know if a lot of people know, but really 80% of us will struggle with back pain at some point in our life. Statistically, it's really hard to avoid. But I'm guessing Lorri and I both can agree that it is possible to avoid this from becoming more of a chronic situation. Um, I know I'm excited for an up and coming event that Lorri and I are joining forces on, that we're going to start to help people understand more about back pain and how to beat the odds of becoming more chronic. Lorri, do you just want to share a little bit more information on what we have planned?
Absolutely. Amy and I are so excited to have our first joint venture, Lunch and Learn, coming up. Revitalize and get back to life, tips for building a better back. And this event will occur on March the 23rd, 11:30 Central Time. And it's going to be an interactive workshop covering a lot of the topics that we brushed on today, but providing a deeper interactive realm to get down to business with what to do about the structural problems, how to fix the postures, things like that. So we are very excited, and more information to come on that.
Absolutely. And if anyone is interested in more information, go ahead and just send me an email. The email is up on the screen, and we would be happy to send you more information on that. At this time, I want to answer a question that has come in on the comments. So, Lorri, what the question is, and I'll let both of us kind of explain this, our answers to this, but why do you feel that pain persists after the initial problem that caused the pain may be resolved, or we aren't really feeling like that is a problem anymore? Why do you feel that that persists?
So that's a great question. And we've touched on a couple of key points to that in our conversations already. But I would say, just like our muscles have memory when we learning to ride a bike, it's as easy as riding a bike. Our muscles remember what to do. Our nervous system has a memory too. And that turning the dial up and turning it back down and turning it up and turning it back down, the more the pain goes up, the higher the bar gets set in our pain thresholds. So those whispers you mentioned earlier get pushed below what we even perceive as pain anymore. So our bodies try to ignore the signals, and because our body continues to want to balance itself, it's going to keep telling us, hey, you need to move, you need to change posture, something's not good here. And that volume gets louder and louder and louder until the pain is back. So it's the memory in the system, and the fact that every time we turn it up, it resets that bar just a little bit higher, and it's harder to listen to those whispers.
Yeah. Yeah, and I absolutely agree with all of that. And one thing I kind of want to touch on as well is, when we've been injured, our body's first response is to brace. That's the way we protect ourselves. And so if we imagine, most of us have been in an accident, and maybe a motor vehicle accident, and in order to survive maybe that whiplash or what you were feeling along the spine when you came out of that car accident, initially you've got that adrenaline running, but then that soreness starts to come in. Your body's starting to spasm, it's starting to brace to try to protect your spine and your neck from any further injury. Well, over time, we start to heal, but we've also developed potentially these subconscious holding patterns that we're completely unaware of. And how I kind of equate this to is, many times with an accident, let's say you see that car coming and you're bracing for that impact. Your body's holding on to that that space, that image and that memory that Lorri was talking about, your body is bracing against that. So subconsciously, on a level that we're unaware of, for 24/7, it's kind of like a broken record happening. Your body's waiting for that impact to happen. And so I think that being able to become aware of those subconscious bracing patterns is really important. But I also think that when we're dealing with pain, so many of us think of pain as just a physical aspect. We don't even realize that there is an emotional aspect that is interconnected with all of these physical restrictions that we have. So I do feel that we do have to address that mind, body, and spirit. And, let's go back to that car accident. When we've had that car accident, we're seeing that car coming to hit us, and there may be fear there. We may be completely angry at that individual that hit us, or angry that I have to take off time of work. All of that gets solidified within our fascial tissue. And many times we also have to connect with the emotional piece and be able to process through that and let it go, to be able to let go of the bracing, to be able to let go of the holding that we're holding on to. So I think there's a subconscious bracing pattern, but I also think a lot of times we want to be addressing that emotional component. That's a great question, and I absolutely love that someone asked that. So you guys, this is the last chance to ask any questions before Lorri and I conclude for the evening. But definitely, as we're concluding, I think Lorri and I just want to touch base on our 3 top thoughts when it comes to chronic pain. So Lorri, do you want to go ahead and start with yours?
Sure. So the first one is know your body. Knowledge is power. So know and understand what your body needs and what specific stressors are your common triggers that set your pain and cycle. Number 2 would be to find ways to restore that balance. So once you know the problem, then have your list of things to go through to restore that balance, starting with the breathing and allowing settling into the system. And then the last thing is, we as women have the toughest time doing this, but self-care. If we do not take care of ourselves, we cannot take care of others. And in the busy lifestyle that we lead these days, we are always putting our needs on the back burner. And if you're not aware of the problem and can't have a plan to put in place, then you need to make sure that you find the time in your busy world for those self-care strategies to help down train that nervous system and control that pain when it comes back, because it's going to. Life is life. Like I said at the beginning, I literally had a major back issue this morning. I could not stand up straight.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I knew my trigger, knew my process for solutions, and spent all day on self-care so that I could sit up straight and smile while I was talking to you today. So being able to put all that in action really is the key to controlling chronic pain.
Yeah. And I love all of that. And, one thing that I always share with individuals regarding taking that time for self-care, it gets really easy to put that on the side, to put that on the back burner. And one of the best ways that we can do that is set an appointment with ourselves on our calendar. It's a non-negotiable appointment, just like we're going to the dentist or the doctor. Even if it's 5 minutes, just take that time for yourself. I love all 3 of those. So my top 3 thoughts in regards to chronic pain is, we talked about this at the beginning, is starting to really understand our signals and start listening to them. We never want to wait until that body is screaming at us. We want to start addressing things when we are more noticing those whispers. That's when it's really a lot easier to control and to minimize that discomfort. Another one that I have is, we have to create balance in the body. This will help us when we're balanced. It helps us be able to withstand stress and strain that's placed on our body. If our body is imbalanced, it will be more predisposed to injury. So I think finding balance is important. And then my third one that goes right along with that is, a lot of times with those postural deviations and why our body is being pulled out of alignment, or we've shortened down from texting all day long, is we have to address the fascial lines of pull, those restrictions that are pulling our system out of balance. So those are my top three thoughts when it comes to dealing with chronic pain. Lorri, do you have any final thoughts before we kind of tie up for tonight?
Only that I am sure by now our audience has discovered how well we work together, and our upcoming workshop is going to be so fabulous because of the interaction and being able to put these very similar strategies together from different perspectives. And different perspectives make all the difference, because we are all slightly different.
We are. Yeah, and I absolutely love the time of that I've been getting to know Lorri, and our work is so complementary. And we are a powerful team, and I am so excited for what the future holds for us, and just what we have coming down the road. So for those of you that are joining us live, definitely save the date. Put this in your calendar for our next Breaking the Cycle of Pain Live, which will be coming on Monday, April 4th at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. And I'm going to be talking all about changing positions without pain. So I'm going to be going through maybe how to go from laying down to seated with ease with when you're dealing with pain, or to try to prevent any type of injury. So definitely save the date. Keep watching your Facebook posts for upcoming events for those. The other thing too is I want to absolutely thank Lorri for joining me tonight. I hope that all of you have found the information that we've been sharing to be helpful. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to reach out to either of us via email. I've put it on the screen. You can reach me at my email or Lorri at hers. We will both be open to answering any questions that you have at the end. As always, thank you everyone for joining us, and we look forward to the next Breaking the Cycle of Pain Live on April 4th. Thanks everyone. Have a great night.